What do we make of how things ended for Lamar Jackson, Peter, this season?
Yeah, this isn't how they wanted. This is one of those where you look at it and you say, okay, just like we said with Buffalo last week with Josh Allen, a lot of similar things. Cincinnati didn't have Joe Burrow this year. Deshaun Watson wasn't in Cleveland this year. You had the home field. You had the number one. They're coming to your building. You're the healthier team. They didn't have Tooney. They didn't have Willie. Like all this stuff, and you start wondering, was that our time? Like, was that the opportunity? Because they have 20 free agents and like good free agents. They got Odell Beckham as a free agent who is on a one-year deal. You know, we love Zeitler. He's a free agent. All those different guys that won't be there next year. Matabuke, or I said it wrong, Matabike, he's a free agent. So you have all these big names, and it's like, it felt like this was the year. And that's the hardest thing for Ravens fans this morning. And I think we've had a lot of fan bases, in Detroit especially right now, are thinking, wait, was that the year? Like, did we just miss it? Did it just zoom on by like a train?
We scored one touchdown at home. That's how it ended? Come on.
It was tough. And fans brought it. I think the front office put the team on the field. And then you wonder, like, Todd Monken's game plan, like, where'd it go? Five carries from the running backs. 5 carries from the running backs in an entire football game. That's a one-score game. Completely abandoned the run. Lamar looked jittery at times. Of course, threw a terrible interception, the one to Likely. Zay Flowers, of course, unfortunate play. There's this feeling, and to break the fourth wall, we've talked about this. My family's all from Baltimore. They're diehard Ravens fans, so I hear it. It's like, there's this feeling that, 2012 was like this miracle run that we went into Denver and we went into New England and then nothing was stopped. This wasn't that, but this was like, we're the better team, and they weren't yesterday. They were not as on their P's and Q's, obviously, and you start to wonder, was this going to be their best opportunity? I hate to put a cap on that. Maybe next year they use this as fuel and they go and they burn through the league and they're the top team and they win.
Mahomes will be back next year.
But Mahomes is going to be back this year, and so will Burrow, and so will Watson, and so many other things will happen. And I just didn't feel like this was their best effort. In fact, I think it was their worst game of the year, and they saved it for the AFC Championship game. It's a tough pill to swallow.
And that's what was tough about it, because as you're watching that game, and to Kyle's point, what he said earlier in the show, we had a great NFC Championship game, and you're expecting this AFC matchup. We have Lamar Jackson on one side, Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and 2 great defenses. We're expecting this great duel of 2 really good football teams, and we didn't really get it from the Baltimore Ravens side. The Chiefs started out fast. In the first 2 drives, they go down, they put 2 touchdowns on the board. And from that point on, the Ravens defense kind of settled down. They forced a lot of punts. From that point on, only gave up 3 points. And the Ravens offense just never got going. You talked about the lack of production or attempts from the running back room. I think beyond that, of watching Lamar was disappointing, because all season long we talked about how much better he was this year in an MVP type of season, and then the addition of Todd Monk and him throwing the ball from the pocket and all of these different things. We're like, that's why this Ravens team is different, and this is why they're going to be able to get over the hump. But as you watch that game Sunday, every time they drop back to pass, yes, Lamar had some amazing plays, the one where he shakes off and throws it to Zay Flowers, where he catches his own pass. But in between those amazing plays, there were a lot of ones where you're kind of scratching your head, where it's a blitz from the Chiefs and there's no routes going to the middle of the field, or he's holding on to the ball and he's moving around, and they're not able to really get anything going. I think that was the disappointing. If we would have had a game where Lamar had this terrific game, Mahomes had, and in the end, the Chiefs just came out on top, you're like, okay, like they fought hard. But watching that game, it wasn't enough from the Ravens side, especially offensively, of what they were able to do and execute.
It's frustrating. The Lions lost. Like, the Lions made some great plays. They made some incredible efforts. They showed up. They kind of blew it. I feel like we just didn't get the Ravens' best shot at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no shame in losing to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, just not like that. An early touchdown, and then that's it. And we have this prolific talent, and he's home, and the smoke. It just amounted to nothing. I'm not mad that the Ravens lost. I'm mad that they didn't really show up with much at all. And now we're at this place where I mentioned Patrick Mahomes is 14-3 in the playoffs. It's an unbelievable record. Lamar's 2-4. 2-4. Yeah. That's terrible. I mean, it's a terrible record for a guy who's going to have a second MVP. What MVP is 2 times this young? He has as many MVPs as playoff wins. And, like, the playoff wins are not exactly like a historic instant 30-for-30 type wins either. We beat the Texans at home, and we beat the Titans. Those are our wins. So, listen, it's just that it's part of the in the vacuum of being in the Mahomes era. Like, just go ahead and ask Josh Allen, ask all these other guys. He wins. He's 14-3. He doesn't really lose playoff games. Mahomes' only 2 losses outside of a Super Bowl are not only in title games, they're in overtime of title games. So you can't even beat him in regulation of a title game. Those are the only three. One in the Super Bowl when he really had no chance, one to Jason's Patriots teams in overtime, and one to the Bengals in overtime against Burrow. That's it for the whole damn career.
14-3.
14-3,
Amazing.
4 Super Bowls in 5 years. You know, we would get wrapped up in Brady so much, all his numbers. Like, Mahomes' numbers are going to be better than Brady's. Many of them already are about where they are in life. So, welcome to the next 14 days of Patrick Mahomes as God, and like he's earned it, and he's incredible, and he's humble, and he's a great teammate. He's just like the perfect specimen. And until one of these guys, I'm talking to you, Lamar, Josh, Justin, Tua, who the hell else, you have to beat him.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow did it one time. Somebody else has to beat this guy, or we're going to do it every year, talk about how good he is and what a great guy he is, and he deserves it. Sorry, it's the Mahomes era. Welcome to it.
Lamar's got 2. Purdy's got 4 already.
Playoff wins. Yeah.
Playoff wins, postseason wins. Peter, something you touched on earlier in the show kind of intrigued me, which was we were talking about how the Ravens could fathom 5 running back calls to hand the ball off and run the ball. You said they didn't want to do it that way. It's the Steve Spagnuolo defense that forced them to do it that way. I respectfully hear that. However, if he really did try, Todd Monken, to run the ball, I would have thought 10 attempts, 15 attempts, good for 15 yards. Like, I need the run game to be stopped. I need it before I am convinced that, like, man, they really tried. It doesn't seem like they tried.
Yeah, they didn't go to their bread and butter. They were the best rushing team in the league all season long by a landslide. Like a historically good rushing team, and they abandoned the run.
They were the only team in NFL history to have more rushes than passes and be at that point in the season.
Is that right?
And to your point, Gus Edwards in the first half had 1 carry for 15 yards.
What happened?
So they were shutting them down, and the game, I think, got away, and they just started throwing the ball a lot. But Gus Edwards, 3 carries, Justice Hill, 3 carries.
It was so interesting, Kyle. You also pointed out to Lamar's just the body language of, like, when things started to break down, he didn't look like Lamar the rest of the regular season, where, like, things were breaking down in the regular season. We're, like, so impressed by how he was, his candor and how he was carrying himself, conducting business. Things were breaking down yesterday, and Lamar looked chaotic. He didn't know where to go. Guys weren't open. He looked befuddled.
He did. Before and after, he said, I'm angry after the game. We are now, I just said it, we have 13 days. And Peter, you're Mr. Chief, and you've picked the Chiefs. How are you feeling about 13 days in front of us of more Chiefs hype and more Chiefs adulation?
It's a lot, but we're the NFL Network, and it's the story of the NFL. And it's like,
Damn right.
There's this feeling of like we want new faces, we want it, but like we have to respect the Kings. They are the Kings. They're the defending champions, and they're about to be historic themselves. If they win their 2nd straight Super Bowl title, they're the first since Brady and Belichick did it in 03, 04. So like, we'll give them the show. This is it. The next 13 days, a lot of Chiefs stuff.